and reset. Hello guys and gals of the internet, it's the Simon Chaos of YouTube and Twitch TV, and welcome to a 7th season of this kind of tradition that I do on this channel. I don't really know what to call it, but we are part of a continuing storyline. This is Coach Pop Era Season 3, and this has been part of the 7-year long running kind of tradition on this channel where I pick up a football game and play through the entire Premier League season with Manchester United as they are my team, but with the twist that I'm the commentator over the matches. And for this year, we really are changing things up. Now, I will give as brief recap of real life and the storyline as I can in this video. So, going back to the beginning of 2019, myself and Tommy Games' mother, myself and Tommy Games receive a text from her mother saying that later this year we are planning to have a caravan put into our garden where you can actually live with us. And that was a big thing, a huge thing for us, because I'd been in my house that I'd been for like 9 years, and that was quite a big undertaking. It ended up being that. So from that moment on, myself and Tommy Games pretty much go into money saving mode to be prepared for whatever bills we might need to pay when we've moved out, say an outstanding order of the internet or whatever. So we kind of backdate a lot of games that we were looking to purchase, because every year we would purchase like the FIFAs and the Formula 1s and things like that. But with this impending move coming, we had to kind of pump the brakes on that. And throughout this year, out last year, my biggest undertaking Project PC, actually started up in March, and it would have finished a long time ago, but of course I had that month off where I had to get the cooler replaced, I believe it was. It's been so long. I think it was the fans actually, or part of the cooler or something like that. So I had to wait a month while that was going on. Came back, didn't even finish Project PC when that was done, because then we moved. So you can imagine that at that point we hadn't really been able to buy a football game. You know, we hadn't been able to buy a PES or a FIFA. So I stated in a channel update back in September, at the beginning of September, detailing all of that, and announcing that Coach Pop Era Season 3 would actually be on PES this year. Because from FIFA 18, I'd grown a little bit tired and tedious of FIFA's gameplay. FIFA 18 was just a shitfest in terms of gameplay. It's probably still the worst gameplay-wise FIFA I have ever played. FIFA 19 was a little bit better, but it was still like really bad, and I was getting kind of tired of it, to be honest. I probably would have still played Season 3 initially on FIFA anyway despite that, but that was until the trailers and the details started coming out about PES, where they were introducing cutscenes and legendary managers into the game, and I looked at all the details from PES and I thought, you know what, this would be great to integrate my current running storyline of the Coach Pop era into the game. This would actually be a great opportunity to make the Coach Pop era the real storyline series I wanted to make it. With FIFA, I was very limited. FIFA 18 actually allowed you to pick from a select of preset managers, and that's kind of where the idea came from. FIFA 18 had FIFA 17 for the first time had managers in the game, and FIFA 18 had the ability to pick from a pre-select selection of characters, pre-made selection of characters, and you play the game from there. So yes, there wasn't very much customization, but at least it gave me the idea. I'd always been a big fan of PES's manager customization. Now, unfortunately, it had come out that they had unfortunately taken that out in replacement of the legendary managers, as it were. But you can still give your manager a random name, so that's what we're going to do when we go into it here in a minute. But yeah, I was just looking at PES and I was like, you know what? This could be an opportunity to give Coach Pop Era the storyline I wanted to make it with the new cutscenes. But there's a caveat with PES, as there always is with PES every year. It's not it's not official, meaning PES doesn't have the official license to all the teams in the Premier League, or the Champions League, or Europa League for that matter. It's lost those licenses entirely, but it's always a licensing issue with Konami and PES, where they don't have all the licenses that FIFA do. They only have select ones, say Barcelona or Manchester United, or in this case, they actually have Juventus outright, to the point where Juventus actually isn't called Juventus in the game. They're in the game, but they're under a different name because PES holds Juventus actual rights. So, and as you guys know, I love my authenticity in my sports games. So PES has always been a bit of a turn-off for me in that regard, and that's why I've stuck with FIFA for so long, because PES, as fun as the gameplay is, and I will admit it's a lot more funner than later FIFA iterations, for example, but PES just doesn't have that authentic feel, that authentic buzz I get from playing an authentic video game. You know, with Formula 1, I always bought the Studio Liverpool versions over the EA Sports ones because I just preferred those. With FIFA, it's kind of the reverse. I preferred FIFA over PES simply because of authenticity, and I think it was last year or the year before they actually introduced for the first time the Champions League and the Europa League officially to the game. So yeah, licensing was always a bit of a turn off for me on PES, but then I learned about all the cutscenes and everything. I was, you know what, I'm just gonna bite the bullet and do it on PES this year. I think it would be great. And then I learned of PES Universe, which is a group of guys who have made this fan-curated website that give you all the kits, all the team badges, all the manager faces, well, the manager photos, I should say, but at least they have the kits and the badges for all the Premier League teams and maybe some others that aren't official in PES. And it was just, the stars had aligned, and that was kind of the turning point for me. So in September, I decided initially that I was definitely going to make the storyline on PES for the most part this year. I would have most likely gone back to FIFA for the Champions League or the Europa League, but after going through and looking at some things, I'm actually going to make it exclusively on PES for the first time since starting up this thing I've been doing. And like I said, or didn't say, I've probably said it before, but this isn't actually the first time I've dabbled into PES. I've played PES 4, which was one of my favourites. I actually made my school team on PES 4, weird story. PES 5 I enjoyed, the year being Arsenal and Chelsea were officiated in that game. PES 6 was awful. I did not like PES 6 at all. And then I went back to just exclusively on FIFA for a few years, until PES 2016, where I decided to do the Champions League matches that year alongside the Premier League matches on FIFA. And I was a big fan of neither, to be honest. FIFA's gameplay has been the same for years, whereas PES, I just, something I didn't like about PES in the gameplay department that year. It was just something I just didn't like about it. The shots, there's this ridiculous shot that I scored from way outside the box for amazingly. The tackling was awful in PES. I remember the tackling being really bad in that game. But I thought despite all that, the cutscenes are there. PES Universe has their official kits and things, so it brings a bit more authenticity to the game. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to make this the first exclusive PES game since I started doing this kind of video. But of course, we were moving. It ended up being October when we moved, and we obviously hadn't bought any games since the beginning of the year, say, except for Formula 1 or a game in a sale for my case, like Devil May Cry. So we moved, and it was great. Then we had to wait another couple of months while the room got set up and the setups got set up and sorted. And then I went back to finishing up Project PC and the Devil May Cry marathon. Then we did myself and Time Games did a co-op playthrough of Dead Rising 2 off the record, Halo the Master Chief Collection, and added Halo Region and started coming out periodically, pretty much leading us to today. And I think it was about a few weeks ago that I actually originally planned to do this on FIFA. Those of you who've been on the channel for the last week, that you noted I already started this year on FIFA 20 when it was released on the Origin basic vault of games, and I figured, you know what, I haven't even owned PES yet. Owning the basic vault pass for Origin is much cheaper than buying the games outright, because there's no way I'm buying FIFA ever again, probably. I will probably go into it when it's on the vault, but I'm never buying FIFA again out of the last two experiences. Have been really subpar and in 18's case complete garbage. But yeah, it was better doing that than buying the game. And I was still able to do the storyline. I wasn't going to leave it go unplayed, even though it was late into the season. Obviously we had the coronavirus pandemic suspending sports till further notice up until recently. But I was like, you know what, I'm not going to let Coach Pop Season 3 go unplayed. I'm going to do this final year of the contract that was the initial part of the storyline, which we'll go into in a second. And I'm going to do that. And pretty much that was going to be the story. Until a few days ago, when PES was actually part of the Steam Summer Sale for a tenner. And because my PES universe was still active, I was like, you know what? I can't refuse that opportunity. So here we are. And it is going to be on PES. Now, I know a lot of you will be looking at this and going, well, the Champions League and Europa League isn't official in PES. But I have got a thing for that, which I will mention a little bit later. So, that's the recap of real life, and here we are. So, to recap the story, FIFA 18 begins the Coach Pop era, and basically what the story was that Jose Mourinho steps down from his manager position of Manchester United, the manager position of Manchester United 2 days after winning the Europa League final. Now, at that point, I didn't really have a reason for it, and I didn't really want to give him an illness. So I was like, make your own conclusion as to why he left. Did he get a lucrative offer? Did something else happen? I didn't really want to give him an illness or a family matter, because I don't think that would have been really... I just didn't want to do that, you know what I mean? So I didn't really know what the reason was, but it happened, and Manchester United at that point were in a state of shock, didn't expect to do it, weren't going to sack Jose because, he just won the Europa League and the FA... Was it the FA Cup? I think it was. The Carabao Cup it was, actually. So yeah, he won those two trophies. Manchester United had no ambitions to sack him at all, and then he comes out with that, and it shocks everyone. Everyone is in shock, and it leaves the Manchester United board in a bit of uncertainty, to be honest. Because the only two possible candidates that could take over from Jose Mourinho would be either Mauricio Pochettino or Max Algeri. Who were both employed at that point. So it left Manchester United with really nowhere to turn to. Now, alongside this was the NBA playoffs, and in the Eastern Conference Finals, the San Antonio Spurs get swept by the Golden State Warriors, who go on to be eventual NBA champions. Gregg Popovich, at the end of the Eastern Conference Finals, comes out in the press conference and says, I'm stepping down. I think I've taken this team as far as I can take them. It's time for someone new to take over the reins. I think my ceiling has been reached, and it's time for someone new to take over and create a new dynasty. And to be fair, a lot of people would really have accepted that. There is an era of turnover in San Antonio. Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker, for example, I think at this point were at the end of their careers, if not nearing the end. So there was a huge turnover coming up in San Antonio, and Gregg Popovich was like, I've taken this team as far as I can go, it's time for someone new to take over. Greg doesn't really have any future plans, so he kind of goes into some sort of retirement. But the Manchester United board hear about this, and even though he wouldn't be the most football recognised candidate, because let's be honest, Gregg Popovich in real life probably knew nothing about football, or in his case it would be soccer for you American viewers, even though he doesn't really have that kind of knowledge, we as a club can give him that and give him the pieces he needs to learn. Gregg Popovich is a winning coach. He knows what it takes to win. He knows what it takes to develop players, and there are a lot of Manchester United youngsters in the academy that were blossoming under the other managers that they have been with. And to nurture them and to bring them out of to actually maximize their potential, as it were, Gregg Popovich would be perfect. But would he go for it, considering it's a sport that he really has probably little to no knowledge about? But not one to back down from a challenge, Gregg Popovich accepts the position. And it turns out to be the right choice in a way. Initially there are struggles, but sooner and it gets to the point where Manchester United start to fall behind, so far behind Manchester City that they're uncatchable at this point. And Manchester City that year obviously had a freak season. They won the league by 19 points. But Gregg Popovich starts to show himself as quite a capable football manager. His experimentation with young players in particular has certainly gotten some notoriety around the Premier League, and he's become hugely respected after his first season. He at the beginning of the first season, he actually brought through JSC Zardes from the LA Galaxy to help him coach him. As you know, Zardes was an MLS player in America. It makes sense. And for the second season, the target was to just bring the gap down. It doesn't matter if they don't win the league or the Champions League as they were in at that point. Obviously, Gregg had been eliminated from the Champions League by Sevilla in his first season. It was a low point, but considering it was his first season in the Champions League, to get to the last 16, or I think it was quarterfinals, was actually quite the achievement for a brand new coach in a brand new sport. So the improvement is there. And on they go into the second season, and it doesn't really end up with any trophies, unfortunately. Gregg loses the pre-season tournament to Bayern Munich in the final, and this is where the storyline kind of changes to Manchester United in real life, because we are going to say in this storyline now, we are going to say that Manchester United were the team that finished second, just 2 points, I believe it was, behind Manchester City. The gap had come down, but there is an interesting quote from Popovich that really gets the fans talking, and I'll mention more about that in the news bulletin. But the gap has come down, and the improvement in Europe has been made, even though it probably had a huge slice of luck, because we are going to give Gregg that night in Paris that he wins against all odds, like Solskjaer did in real life. So we're going to give him that as well. So he makes improvement in the Champions League. He doesn't win it, but he does make improvement, even though there was plenty of luck in it. And he comes to within 2 points of winning his first league title. And that's the story leading up to right now. So that's where we're going to leave it, and we'll go into the news bulletin now. What I'm going to do before we do that is give a few caveats here. Now, as you guys would know from the previous videos, I made some signings. And I won't bring them up now, but I'll bring them up later. What I did was I bought 4 particular signings that would actually fit into the team, and I sold a couple of players as well. Now I'm not going to tell you who they are, because most of you will know who they are already. But what I have done in this game, let's actually go and show you the settings I'm going to use for Master League. Then let's go new. So we're going to have the club team lineup, because that gives you all the players that are in the team at this current point, and probably a couple others as well. I'm just going to skip this just a second so I hide the signings I've made. There we go. Now, like I think I said earlier, PES doesn't have a management curation tool. It has preset managers and legendary managers. I'm probably going to lean towards Zico, because he probably looks the most realistic to Gregg Popovich, as it were. Maybe this guy, but I think he might be too bold. Gregg Popovich isn't that bold, I don't think. This guy wouldn't be too bad, but his hair is not the right color. I mean, I could pick this guy, but he seems really big, as it were. I haven't actually seen him, but he looks kind of big, and I don't think Gregg Popovich really is a big guy. That guy probably wouldn't be too bad either, actually. I know a few of these guys, but I don't know all of them. I know who. I know Rohit. I know him, and I know him as well. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna go with. Actually, Zika looks big anyway. That could be just the game, actually. I wonder if I should actually go with this guy. I don't know. I'm torn, actually, now I'm thinking about it. I think we'll go with this. I think we'll go with Zico. He seems like the most realistic, I suppose. He looks closest to Gregg, obviously. That's a shame that they've lost the curation tools in the manager. I don't know why they did that, but I guess it was to, you know, with the new licenses they had to obviously make some changes to their game mode. So, you know, Formula 1 has done it. I think FIFA's done it. You know, they had to change it to fit, adhere to other licenses and stuff like that. So they have to change certain things. So if they do this, they can't have this. Is basically the thing there. What should we have? See, with the suit or the sportswear, I think we'll go with the suit because when Popovich was the head coach of the Spurs, he most times wore a suit. So I think we'll go with that. All right. So before I press continue, I'm going to show you the settings I have. I think pressing OK will probably move us on to the first cutscene. So we're going to have all these as normal. Now, we're going to have all these as normal. We're going to change that to weekly salary because that's what I'm used to with FIFA, I guess. We're going to have regular difficulty. These are subject to change. I might increase the time limit because I think 10 minutes on PES is quicker than 10 minutes on FIFA. So I might increase this to about maybe 11 or 12. We're going to have this changed to pounds. And we're going to have this as every day. So if other teams make signings, I can mention them in the news bulletin. But apart from the signings I made in FIFA are going to be there, but they're already in the team. And this is why. Because we finished second in the storyline, what I've done to coincide with that is because we finished second, that means we're in the Champions League. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do this. Now, PES officially doesn't have the Champions League, but PES Universe has the logo and everything there already, but it's not officially in the game. But it is official to play. Because it's a separate mode from Master League, if I made the signings that I did in Master League, they wouldn't carry over to this mode. So I've already put the signings I plan to make into the team to be able to play these matches. So they're already in the side. And I've already made the sellings I was going to do as well. I've changed the sellings destinations a little bit, but that means I'm not going to make any more signings. I'm going to stick with the 4 I've done, but I've had to put them in to be on the team in the Champions League matches because playing Master League means that Manchester United are in the Europa League, and for the storyline, we're going second, so we'd be in the Champions League. So I had to make those signings through transfers to be able to play this mode in the Champions League and have it in conjunction with the storyline. So I've already put the signings in the team, so that means I won't be having to spend money to spend them, which is a shame. But I would have had to do that anyway, whether I'd start on FIFA or not. I probably would have had to do that anyway because, again, I have to go into this cup mode to play the Champions League matches. And what I really actually noticed was that if we do this and pick United, for example, the groups are more or less what they would be in real life. Now, Kansas Door isn't a team. They replace, I think it was it Zagreb? No, I can't remember who this team was. But they just replaced that team. But most of the teams in the Champions League were actually there, which is pretty cool. So I didn't need to I only needed to move Manchester United into second, where Liverpool would be, and Chelsea would be third, so Liverpool would be third because obviously City won the league by 2 points. So City would be there where they were. Manchester United would be second, so they went in Group E. Liverpool would go into third, I think. Or were Spurs fourth? Yeah, Liverpool would go into third, and Spurs would be fourth. But obviously, with everyone getting pushed down one, that means Chelsea are fourth. I think I could be wrong, but I've already I've forgotten what I had, but I've already got a save file with the correct groups anyway. So that might be wrong. It might not. But I've already set it up in the original file, so don't worry about it. And if I haven't, I'll fix it. So yeah, that's pretty much everything, really. Next up will be the news bulletin with all the news you need leading up to the first game of the Premier League season. I do believe that Master League actually randomizes the games for you, so it actually won't be against Chelsea. So that'll be quite an interesting new dynamic where we actually have our own fixture list that's pre-picked by the game. So that should be cool. Alright guys, peace out, and I'll see you then.